and the viewers at home. Look, we got wind of this recently in the recent days. And once we picked it up, we engaged traditional leaders. We communicated information to the people of our province to say this is dangerous and also it is against the law because the regulations of the National Health Act that deal with exhumation of human remains specify what reasons lead to exhumation and removing a plastic bag that a person has covered, not part. So we are concerned about this, and we're saying to the people of Africa, let's stop this now.
Mr. Sicwetsha, I'm going to ask you to move around because the connection to you is a bit patchy. But let me ask you this question. The families or communities who are engaged in this, have you been able to ascertain the reasons for why they're doing this?
One of the reasons, which is the main reason actually, is that they are doing this because of cultural reasons. They are saying they can't have their relatives remain buried, covered in a plastic bag. And they when they do this exhibition, which is illegal, they do it and remove the plastic bag. And we are saying it's illegal because they have not been granted permission by law enforcement. Anyone who does exhumation of human remains follows clearly regulated processes. And the reason they are doing this, while we appreciate the cultural significance and sensitivity, we just want to raise the concern that now that we're dealing with a virus, which we don't have much information on, it is not advisable for anyone to even think of applying for exhumation. Those that are doing it, we have established, are doing it illegal. And government is is following up information so that we can be able to educate those people and be able at the same time to effect the law. Because everyone knows that you can't just wake up and exhume human.
You're saying, Mr. Sicwetsha, that this is being done by those who are doing it for cultural reasons. Explain to us a little bit what you mean by that. What specifically is their concern with their loved ones' remains, which are now sealed and underground in that plastic body bag?
Let me first start with this point. The use of plastic bag or proof leak bag is one of the guidelines to control infection. So we've communicated this guideline, and everyone who handles human remains has to do this. So what we communicate to families of the deceased when they go to the mortuaries and hospitals is the same information. So what some people are saying is that they got dreams to say their relative is suffocating in that plastic bag. Some are saying they can't leave their relative covered in a plastic bag. You will remember that there are people who believe in covering their relatives with blankets or other objects when they enter them into the graves. So it is along those lines that we are saying this, and these are the reasons that are given by those that are doing this illegal education.
Yeah. Mr. Sicwetsha, whilst the sensitivities around this cannot be overlooked or undermined, you're saying that you discovered this practice in recent days. I want you to be specific. Which areas did you find this happening, and did you alert authorities?
We've alerted authorities, and some of the areas we picked this up are places like Ngobo and other parts of the province. We are also looking at the fact that this thing could be widespread to many parts of the province. We have also seen elements of this communication on social media platforms. And we followed up some of these people. They are from Ngobo, some are from the Mthatha area. So we're saying to everyone who may come across that information, don't do it. It's not safe. It's risky. During times when we are dealing with something like war, we all need to put public health of ourselves and those other people on the main as a priority. And we need to put that first as the number one thing that we need to do because we're all responsible for public health and for good health of other people. So we need to make sacrifices that things that are cultural responsibilities, that are cultural practices, there are those that we will have to suspend during this time,
Yeah.
just to save ourselves, to protect other people also.
Yeah. Mr. Sicwetsha, in that very article where you made these comments on the Daily Dispatch newspaper, the paper also reporting that the Eastern Cape has actually run out of coffins in which to bury people. Can you confirm this as government on the record, and what is being done to try and replenish, if that's the even the right word to use in this
We,
context?
yeah, look, we can't confirm that because we don't have that information. The sector would normally engage government on issues that they are concerned. We were unable to confirm it because we hear it from journalists, we hear it from social media. But here is the issue. If any sector is providing service to communities or to the people, surely they plan for this thing. The current situation now is showing a serious need of quite a number of sectors. And we are saying to General Palace, if they are seeing any shortages and they may want to engage government on that, they need to also engage the public because once people say they are seeing shortage of coffins, that tells you the danger that you are seeing in terms of numbers of deaths that are rising in the province. And it means that the people of the province need to be aware and make sure that their actions don't lead to more deaths being recorded by the province. They don't lead to more infections because in some instances, as we have seen, infections unfortunately lead to demise of a number of.
All
So
right.
this is a serious issue. We would love to engage the sector, but let me take you back to when the sector raised an issue, which is a big concern around. I think they were demanding a grant from government, and they did this without engaging government to understand how does government take a decision to provide grants to companies or industries that are facing hardship to COVID-19.
Yeah.
So we would want to be cautious on this because much as we would love anyone to communicate information, we don't want to to put out information that causes public panic unnecessarily. So until we get information from the sector, we would take this with a pinch of salt.
All right. Mrs. Sicwetsha, we out of time, but I've got to squeeze this question in. So in less than a minute, if you could give me a response around what you as the province see as the leading cause of this soaring death rate in the Eastern Cape province. What is the leading cause of why so many people are dying? Your province is leading in terms of COVID-19 deaths.
Look, colleagues from the health department and the panel that advises government on COVID-19 are saying one of the major causal factors or things that lead to this is that some people present themselves to hospitals very late when they're battling to breathe, when the situation is worse. So we are now encouraging the people of our province to especially those with comorbidities, because there's a high number of people with comorbidities that are demising. So encouraging them to say once they start feeling the symptoms, especially symptoms like battling to breathe, they need to go to the hospitals. They need to see a doctor or a nurse to advise them of what is going on.
But
This
there are
is
also
more
reports,
important.
Mr. Sicwetsha, sorry to cut in, there are also reports
Sure.
suggesting that ambulances are driving around with no oxygen.
we'll have to look into that because the Department of Health has got a responsibility to ensure that they provide health resources to all health facilities, and ambulances form part of those, because when an ambulance goes to pick up a patient, they need to make sure that they've got all the required equipment. We have increased oxygen provision in our hospitals. So that's why I'm saying to you, I'll check on that, because ambulances are very critical at this point. You can't go to fetch a person who's struggling to breathe and yet you don't have an oxygen tank
All
to
right.
assist that person with breathing.
Okay, Mrs. Sicwetsha, unfortunately, we are out of time, but these reports, seemingly in this article of the Daily Dispatch, they were confirmed by the special advisor to your government in the Eastern Cape, Dr. Bevan Goqwana, who seemed to corroborate this story around an ambulance, at least one, which was transporting a patient, and it had no oxygen leading to that particular patient